All right, guys, we are back here on the Ascend podcast. And today on the cast, we're going to be catching up with another one of our athletes. We have Jacob Marlow here on screen with us. We're going to be learning a little bit about his background and his journey to professional CrossFit athlete. And I'm joined by his coach, Triston Patrick, who you guys are pretty familiar with by now, but he does work one-on-one with Triston, and they've been working together for a little while. So we're going to get some background information about Jacob and his journey and what role Triston has played in that journey as well, and kind of talk about plans for 2023. So hi, Jacob. Welcome.
Hey, it's been like a year.
He's excited to be joining us on screen today. So Jacob, let's start off first with just giving us your little CrossFit elevator pitch. So tell us a little bit about your background and how you got started in CrossFit as a little baby Jacob.
All right. So I don't really have a background. I played baseball and football. We did power cleans in football, but it was like the ugliest, worst form ever. I think my max was like 185. But mostly it was baseball and just working out with my best friend in his garage. And so the way I started CrossFit, I actually watched the documentaries on Netflix when I was 16. I remember my aunt did CrossFit, and I always thought it was just like kettlebell swings and like running. And I thought, oh, that's stupid. I would never do that. And then I saw the documentaries, and I was like, whoa, Rich Froning and Dan Bailey are jacked. I want to look like that. And so next morning I woke up, went to the 4:45 a.m. class, and like the whole year, I went to the 4:45 a.m. class.
Because you had to before school, or just because you thought that was fun?
Yeah. So I was like, let's just go early, like first class, might as well. So I'd go to the 4:45, and then I'd leave from there, go to my grandma's up the road. I'd shower, and then I'd take a nap on our couch before school, and then I'd get to school at like 8:15.
Did grandma make you breakfast?
No, I wish. Usually, when I started, I did not realize that like you had to eat food to like gain muscle.
As every 16-year-old does. And
yeah. I remember eating like chicken salad, and thinking I was like, this is gonna get me jacked and shredded, and it did not.
There could be worse things.
That's true.
I'm not much of a sweets person. My problem is that I overeat like good food. So I just slowly started to kind of build, like, I started off doing class, and then slowly started to do, I'll do another workout and lift a little bit. And then I did a local comp, a partner comp, and I was like, hey, I'm not half bad at this. And I thought it was fun.
Doing that and just doing classes, was your main motivation just like, I want to be jacked and look like those guys? Or was it like, I want to be one of those guys. I want to go to the CrossFit Games. Like, what were you thinking?
I never got into it to get competitive. I've never been super competitive until now. And now I'm like become overly competitive. But so I just started to get jacked. I never intended on competing. And then as time went on, I was like, it's kind of fun. Like, it's stressful, but it's fun. And I just really, the whole reason, every once in a while, if I get burnt out or whatever, I go back to like why I do it. And it's like, it's fun. And I like to continually get better. I don't like to backtrack. So I'm like, it's just nice to go in, do some hard work, and then leave being like, okay, like that was all I had. And so over time, it just kind of compounded, and I'm where I'm at now.
So when was your first open?
It was, I think in 2018 or 2019. It was my last year. I only had 1 year in the teenage division. And I ended up getting 205th after like 3 or 4 months of CrossFit. So I was like right outside the age group online qualifiers. And looking back, if I would have made those, I would have got completely trashed. Rope climbs and pistols, stuff I had no idea how to do. And I think handstand push-ups, which That's still a struggle today.
Working on it.
Getting better.
But yeah, I think 2018, 2019. And I remember there was the workout with, I can't remember, it was the dumbbell dumbbell thrusters and then bar facing burpees over those.
And then the max clean afterwards.
The max clean. Yeah. I remember
13.2.
I hit 255 for the max clean. And I was like, so I came in like decently strong. And that is
a little bit. 255 is pretty decent 3 months into CrossFit.
Yeah.
At how old were you?
16.
16. Yeah, it's pretty good.
It was the ugliest. I just remember I jumped like my numbers jumped. I mean, I have a video of me doing 185 for like a max clean and jerk when I first started, and then it was like 3 months later, I just hit like 255. It's probably 3 or 4 months. But so coming in with strength because I am a little bit bigger. I mean, I'm 5'9", 205 pounds, not tall, but kind of thick. That has been a super helpful thing. Other than like strict handstand push-ups, that kind of eats my lunch.
For people who don't know you or have never met you, it's very safe to say you are naturally dispositioned to be very strong.
Yeah.
Especially when squatting.
Yeah, I'm all legs. My deadlift, not so much, but we've gotten that up. But yeah, just over the years, I slowly got more serious about training. Okay,
so how did you go from first open to then you weren't a teenager anymore after the first one? Were you still in high school, or at that point had you moved and were looking for different training? Like, tell me a little bit about your year after your first year as a teenager.
Yeah, so I started in between my junior and sophomore and junior year of high school, and then I aged up into the adult division, and I was like, well, there's no shot for a while. But my intention was never to like go to that next level. I just kind of, looking back, I always focused on, okay, like what can I do in a couple months, or what can I do today? And I mean, when I started, it was super simple stuff. Like, I mean, I could barely do like 5 muscle ups, and then I just kind of made my own workouts at first, and then I started with comp train, and I did that for a while. And then just kind of honestly program hopped like every other year, and gym hopped. I kind of moved to different gyms depending on the equipment. Because the further I got in, the more I was like, I need to be touching these like heavier dumbbells or like sandbags, ropes, rings. And I was fixated on yokes. I thought I would be doing yokes way more than I actually do them. But
yokes are fun.
They are.
They're fun.
It's just been a slow transition. I mean, each year, like I get a little bit better. I feel like every 7-8 months or so, 7 to 9 months, I kind of take a next step. Like it's like I level up. Like, okay, I'm a little bit fitter than I was 7 months ago, capacity wise or just endurance wise or strength. Yeah. And so, I mean, after it's been 5.5 years now, after like consistently every day getting after it, for the most part, I've come a long way.
So when did you start taking CrossFit more seriously in the sense of like sticking with the program, finding a coach, and kind of 2 days and that kind of more dedicated training when you moved from home to Houston area? Would you say that was kind of a big shift for you?
Yeah. So I moved to Houston to start physical therapist assistant school last August of 2022. No, August of 2021. I struggle with dates. And I started. So the way me and Triston met, there was a competition up in North Louisiana that we both did, and Triston was, when I'm at competitions, I usually am friendly, make my rounds, talking to people, meeting people.
No, Jacob talking to people, never.
Yeah,
never
heard of. And so I met Triston and Courtney, his girlfriend, and we just hit it off, started talking. And a few months down the road, I got into school, and then I found out I was going to be moving to Houston. And I think I talked to a guy at a gym in Houston, and he referred me to Triston, and I was like, no way! I met this dude like 4 months ago.
Yep.
And so I hit him up, and I was like, hey, do you go to a gym in the Clear Lake area, wherever we are, Webster? And he was like, yeah, I own one. And so I started going there, and super nice gym. I love going there. And then I was doing 2 different programs, kind of. I started on one, and then I jumped to another. And Triston was kind of like, the program I was doing, the percentages were super heavy for the weightlifting, and he was like, you're not doing that. And so he would adjust it every day. And he would kind of look at a workout and be like, you don't need to do overhead squats. You're good at those. Do something else that you suck at. So he was kind of just helping me out. And then the opportunity, when Ascend started and Triston joined it, I was kind of just in the right place, right time, and got offered to be an Ascend athlete. And, seeing what me and Triston are very like-minded in the way that we train and think. And so I was like, yeah, no brainer. I remember he was telling me about it, and I was like, say less. Like, you don't even have to go any, like I'm
Your little brother.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes. Now, when I moved to Houston, my first year, honestly, I didn't train as hard as I should have. Like, I had more time. I just got distracted, staying up late, and would end up taking a nap midday after school. And
God,
I kind of sabotaged to get to the gym.
The amount of times it would be like 3:45. He was supposed to be at the gym at 3. And I'd text him and be like, where you at? And he's like, oh, I fell asleep. I took a nap.
Triston, let's hear from your perspective what that transition was like. Like when we won't out any other programs, but when he was doing another program and you're kind of mentoring him, working on building that trust and stuff, like what was that like from your perspective as a coach?
Yeah, so I mean, we had some conversations when he first came to the gym just about different programs he's done, different programs I had done, throughout my time doing CrossFit and training really competitively. And then he was doing the programming he was doing when he got there, and going a little bit back to his disposition for strength. There's certain athletes you can kind of get away with programming certain rep schemes and percentages for strength work, especially with things in like the squat, the deadlift, and things like that. And for an athlete like Jacob, who already has a very, very strong back squat, very, very strong front squat, I would look at the percentages that the reps were prescribed at. And to me, when you reference that off of like what we know from strength conditioning, sports science, and things like that, for an athlete like him, it made 0 sense. He also probably would have been crippled for days. Like if he successfully completed it, any other training he did would have been lackluster at best. Yeah. So I used one of the little tools in my coach's toolbox, which I'm not going to disclose here, and just adjusted the percentages a little bit down to where he would get the same stimulus, but would not be dead basically afterwards. And so we did that for a lot of his squat work and his work on front squat, back squat, deadlifts, things like that. And then with him being in school, not having quite the amount of time that he might have liked to, he would send me like the week of his programming, and I would be like, okay, you're going to do A, B, C, D on Monday. You're going to do this on Wednesday. You're going to move this here on Thursday. I want you to do this. And that was just kind of how it started. Trying to help him kind of time prioritize with him being his first time away from home, real life, school, all those things. Like it was a big change. So I just tried to take a little bit of that stress off of him and just like, hey, this is what you're doing today. This is the percentages you're going to do it at if it needs to change and things like that.
Awesome. So, Jacob, do you want to hear the story about how I first met you? I don't even know if you remember.
I do.
No, I just, yeah.
I want to know the story.
I've never heard it from your side. I just remember you hitting me up one time and said, "Come work out."
Well, I'm not going to out anyone, but again, you were sliding into somebody's DMs and wanting to come down to my gym so you could train with some people. And then I was like, well, why don't you invite him while Haley's in town? Like, he's younger, she's training. Seriously, we'll invite him to this training session. Then it can be more than just like you and him hanging out, and it won't be as awkward. And that's how we wrote the story. Sliding into DMs always.
Hey, shoot or shoot. I mean,
Oh my God.
That was pretty much it. And I was like, yeah, this kid has potential. He's got some work to do, but he's definitely got some good potential. And then Triston was kind of, before Ascend started and stuff, just kind of a friend of a gym, and had kind of knew of him through different connections, knew that he was helping you out and stuff. So when we started it, I was like, I want them to come as a pair. I want them both. So, and then here we are today. Cool. Okay, let's talk about a little bit about your journey competing, like the last 2 years. So we've talked about how we've gotten a little bit better and kind of leveled up each year from that. I want to hear, I would say that the last 2 seasons were your first true like competitive seasons where you had true competitive aspirations, shooting for semifinals and stuff. And I want to hear a little bit about your experience with those.
Okay. So I guess let me think of the date. So this was 20. Okay.
20.
The first quarterfinals.
2020.
I was still back home. I guess 2020. And I did them, and I was training to be competitive. And I was like, okay, I'll do quarterfinals. But honestly, I was like,
was it 2021? Oh yeah, 2021.
2021. Yeah. And I was like, we're gonna do them. Just give it all I got. And I was like, there's always that like self-doubt. I was like, I don't know if I'm like, I know I work out a lot, but I'm like, I don't know if I'm, anywhere close to these guys that are making semifinals. And so as we know, they take top 120, and I ended up getting 172nd or 173rd. And I was kind of like blown away. I was like, whoa, like I did not realize that I could get that close. I thought I'd probably be in like the 400 or 500 range. But after that, I was like, whoa, okay, I guess what I'm doing is working.
You were drinking your own Kool-Aid a little bit?
Well, I was following a program at the gym I was going to back home. And I mean, I just needed more like time to get better. Like I was doing everything I could, following all the programming and stuff. I've always had a tendency to be like, well, what else can we do? And probably overtrain. But now I'm a lot better about not doing that with Triston. Sometimes. Yeah. And I'm very much like questioning. I'll always question things. I'm like, is what I'm doing the most effective thing? And honestly, with Triston, that's chilled out a lot because I know we think super similar, super logically. And so just seeing his programming, I'm like, we both think really logically, and we both always have a purpose in mind for what we want this workout to be. And with Triston, I know there's always a purpose. Not saying that with anybody else there wasn't, but with Triston, it's just like, I know we're so similar. And just his style of programming is the way I like. So that was 2021. I kind of surprised myself. And then in 2022, there was still a little doubt. Like, I just didn't give everything I needed to that season. I was missing training sessions, getting tired from school and taking a nap, and just kind of getting complacent and I mean, I probably averaged like six and a half hours of sleep a night, that whole season. And so I was not very recovered. And I definitely didn't eat right.
No.
All of the other things outside of training weren't quite in check as you'd like them to be.
Yeah. This year has been a lot.
Wait, how did semifinals? Tell us about finals.
So, quarterfinals, I ended up getting 135th, and I take top 120. And I was really happy with my performance. I mean, I did everything I could. and I did great on 3 of the workouts. I mean, I got like 2 top 100 place finishes, and then 1 that was right outside it, 115th. But then there was the handstand push-up workout that kind of just ate my lunch. And that has always been a weakness. So I went in knowing, I was like, okay, this is damage control. I ended up redoing it. I think I did a little better. But that is just a struggle that we.
Yes, you redid it because yes, that had to happen.
And then the rope climb, shuttle run, wall ball one. I thought that would be a really good one for me because I am really good at rope climbs. And I'm pretty good at wall balls. The shuttle runs was just kind of the oddball, and those were hard. And I don't think I had an awful time. I mean, I placed like 500th, but between the handstand push-up workout and that one, they were both around the same, like 500, 600 mark. And it just dropped me too far out to the 135th spot. And once I found out that I didn't make it, I wasn't like super I wasn't like emotional because I'm an emotional dude. I figured I would have been really upset. But I just kind of realized I was like, in the back of my head, I think I doubted myself. And so this year has been really good for me to just train around the people I've trained around at greater heights and ascend. And just see that, like, okay, like, no, I do, like, I am fit. I got to stop doubting myself. So this year has been really, I've focused on being like, okay, no, you're going to make semifinals and do well. That's the plan. I don't want to have any doubt.
For sure. Do you think in the moment when you missed out on semifinals last year, do you think you had the perspective to realize that maybe not everything was in line outside of training and there wasn't 100% focus with all of those other little details needed to execute? Or did it take some time and reflection and kind of coming to realize that all of those pieces of the puzzle weren't quite there?
Yeah, I mean, I realized kind of throughout the year, like, that I wasn't given everything I needed. And it's, really after, it's like, hindsight's 2020. And so looking back, I'm like, dang, I really didn't sleep that much this year. Like, I definitely didn't eat enough. I didn't train enough. Just all the really important things that actually make a difference outside of training. I wasn't taking advantage of any of it. And that, I think that hurt me a lot. Because I've been doing that this past year since me and Triston started working together. Because it's just the accountability of it. And I'm like, no, like, if I want to go where I say I want to go, I have to do the things that I know I need to do. And so this year I feel like I took a huge jump in just my fitness and strength.
I mean, this year, it's hard to even say this year. We haven't even made it to the season yet.
Yeah.
We're just wrapping up like off-season training, really.
Yeah.
And I think I agree with you. I think there's been huge gains. Triston, let's hear a little bit from kind of your perspective, what the goals since semifinals, like that time since semifinals 2022 and realizing we didn't reach the goal that we wanted until kind of now, that off-season path. What's the plan been like, and kind of how have you been helping Jacob refocus and reassess so that way we can get a different result for the next year?
So the first thing we did was obviously we sat down and looked at his quarterfinals performances, what went well, what went bad. And then I also sat down and looked at all of his metrics in terms of just him as an athlete and as an organism. Like, okay, what are we strong at? What are we weak at? What do we need to really focus on, especially in the off-season style training, to make him a better athlete? So we spent the majority of the off-season, as we would with most athletes, but doing a lot of aerobic capacity work, a lot of longer, slower time domains, some threshold work and things like that. But endurance work for him and making his body better at delivering oxygen for longer time domains. So we did a lot of that work. With Jacob already being as strong as he is, we did strength work But it wasn't nearly, kind of the barn burner strength progression that I might work with another athlete on. I mean, his strength numbers were already good enough to be competitive at a semifinal level. And with that progression not being as aggressive as it could have been, he's still gotten substantially stronger. He's PR'd his deadlift, he's PR'd his snatch, he's PR'd his strict press and jerk and like all these different things. So that metric's still moving because you never want to take away a strength, right? And it's always nice to have something you can hit a home run on, but it just wasn't nearly as aggressive. We had a lot more time to just dedicate to building that fitness and building that capacity. And then as we've gotten, more into the preseason time of things, getting his gymnastics volume back up and things like that, we've spent a lot of time working on pressing technique and capacity and handstand push-up form and making sure he's like keeping his feet together and things like that, to try to get those things kind of second nature for him before the season comes in. Because when shit hits the fan in a workout, sometimes things get weird and we don't realize what our bodies are doing. So just making it second nature for him. And then leading into the season, I mean, the goal for him is to maximize his confidence, I think, more so than his fitness. And I don't mean to say like we're not going to make sure he's ridiculously filthy fit, but it's if he goes into a workout that he's really, really confident in, I could probably name a half dozen games athletes that I think he could go toe to toe with them. But if he goes into a workout and he might not be confident in it, then he's going to hold his performance back. And then that's going to kind of shine through. So giving him training structures that allow him to feel that confidence and build that progression into the season so that when quarterfinals comes, no matter what the workout that gets thrown at him, he's like, yeah, I'm gonna smash that. Mm-hmm. Like, I'm not worried. Let's do it. Like, I'm going to go and I'm going to go hard and I'm not worried.
So awesome. Let's talk kind of on that note, Jacob. Let's talk a little bit about what the training environment has been like the last couple months. Because I would say since maybe we had games in August, September, maybe since around the beginning of October-ish, maybe end of September, beginning of October, we've really kind of dialed in that competitive training group. When you've been coming down, making the drive, you drive about 45 minutes to the gym.
Yeah, it's like 30, 35 there, and then like an hour back because I leave right in the middle of 5 o'clock traffic.
Houston traffic.
Yeah.
So let's talk a little bit about that and why you're choosing to kind of make that drive versus training alone, and kind of what that adjustment and change has been like for you having training partners.
Yeah. So I've always pretty much trained alone for the most part. And then coming to Greater Heights, there's me, Kelly, Amanda, Kevin, Angelina, and like anybody else that wants to jump in. And then you, Emily. Most of the time, Triston is watching. It's so nice having people that like are always gonna push me in workouts. Like, rarely do I actually win workouts.
What's the count? How many times have you beat Kelly so far?
I wish I kept count, but so I mean,
one,
yeah,
two.
It's like once every 2 weeks, probably. That's probably the.
Surprised you don't have like a dedicated whiteboard at home where you're like,
oh, awkward. So she'll be. Now I'm gone. Okay. We're back. I was taking over, and then I went away.
Yeah, little Wi-Fi bungle, but I was saying I'm surprised you don't have like a little personal whiteboard at home where you keep track of every workout and the dates of kind of when you beat her, when you get the win for the day up on everybody. Just track.
It's too hard to keep track. It's too hard to keep track. We're like, sometimes she'll come earlier, sometimes later, and like I'm like, I don't know. Maybe I'm like, so I guess when I put that out there that I was like, Kelly, I want to beat you. I remember, so we were in the gym working out after a workout or something. And I was like, Kelly, like, not to be toxically competitive or anything, but like by quarters and semifinals, like, I want to be going 50-50 with like wins, losses against you. And she was like, no, I want to be toxically competitive. So I was like, okay, let's do it. And, we're not, but like in the workout, like, we're competing. We know where we're at, and we're both like, we push each other all the time. I mean, last week we did a workout. Both of us had, maybe it was Saturday. Yeah, Saturday we had a workout that it was like, she was really good at the first and last half, and I was really good at the middle part. She's really good at everything. But it was overhead squats and chest to bar. That's like overhead squats all day. That's my best. And so she beat me on the run out, and then I came back. She beat me by a good bit on the run, and I came back and I had probably a 250 meter lead on the run.
You had like 150 to 175 meter lead on an 800 meter run.
Yeah, and then I turned around and I saw her, and I was like, "Oh no!" I knew because she's a really good runner. And
chased you down.
Yeah, and I'm pretty good at running, but when I'm just like dead, like in the pain cave, I'm dead. Like I'm running, I'm hunched over, like lean to one side, and then she could see that from 200 meters away, and it's like, okay, like time to chase him down. Smells blood, comes for it.
You looked like a wounded deer.
Yeah.
Trying to run.
Yeah.
I think you guys have a really great and positive competitive relationship, though. You both realize the value in having that competition and push and really use it to fuel each other and not to necessarily compare each other or let it turn into a negative thing when someone has a down day or it gets beat or anything like that, but really keep good perspective on how valuable it is to have a training partner at that level to be able to kind of be in the trenches with.
Yeah. I've definitely learned so much from Kelly the whole time we've been working out together. I mean, we'll do bike intervals and she's holding the pace I'm holding. I'm like, what am I doing? Like,
Did he call and ask if you can redo the workout?
Yeah. So, I think I've got a pretty good mental space, but sometimes I'm very bad about being conservative. I'm like, I don't want to burn out and just crash. And so I've learned to break that because I think I kept myself at a cap for so long. And then seeing Kelly be at the same pace that I am or wherever it is, I'm like, we should not both be holding the same RPMs on the Echo bike. Like I'm like 60 pounds heavier. And so that just kind of broke that mental barrier of like, okay, this is not a fast pace. Like I can do more. Like I should be able to do more. So stop thinking that I'm not capable of it. She's definitely helped me break a lot of mental barriers of like what I thought was possible for myself. And that has made me all the fitter. You know,
we talked about that kind of on podcast and interview with her too. I think for a lot of our top tier athletes, like this has been a big focus with you and Kelly. It's been a big focus with Haley out in Michigan. Is kind of breaking that barrier of mentally trying to execute a workout perfectly. And for lack of a better term, I feel like this is the mantra that keeps coming up, but fuck around and find out, go into a workout with no fear. So that way, and push those boundaries. So that way you can test where the boundaries actually are and find out. I think I see it kind of in you a lot, but I see you really trying to let go of this mentality, but trying to stay right under the line where you can execute and do things unbroken and kind of move through the workout and feel successful because it was maybe unbroken and things never really fell apart. But at the end of the day, you maybe didn't get the best training that you could have out of that stimulus and out of that push because we never found where the line was. You really didn't know where you were capable or how deep you were capable of going in that workout. And I think for all of our athletes in this off season, that's been a really major theme and something as coaches we've been trying to dig deep into to prepare you guys for all of these online competitions and qualifiers when it's really just you against you. You have no feedback. You don't have someone to race. You don't have someone to force you to push outside the line. You have to be able to do it yourself mentally. So just bringing that up, like that's been a really big topic and theme. Triston, what kind of changes have you seen in Jacob mentally through kind of this process and having a training partner and focusing on that, letting go of kind of perfection and execution in workouts?
He's definitely not so tied into the I'm going to do this thing unbroken and then I'm going to do this thing unbroken. After many conversations about that and seeing having training partners like Kelly who don't necessarily have that mindset on a given piece where they do break it up and then, he gets dusted basically. It's like really opened his eyes to not being so tied into that mindset of I have to go unbroken and I have to do this, that, and the other. And it's like, okay, I'm going to do this. I'm going to come down, quick rest. I'm going to get back up into it. The other thing I've noticed from him a lot more is more purposeful transitions in his workouts. We talked a lot in the last year or the last, I guess, 9 months or whatever of hustling to that next movement and then just getting a set in, right? Like you don't need to go unbroken. You just need to get over there and get 5 of whatever, right? And then you can start chipping away as you kind of settle into that next movement versus this long transition. And then, I'm going to do, 30 chest to bar, and then I'm going to take another really long transition to the wall or whatever. So moving with just a little bit more urgency, because when you look at a workout across, the entire duration of it and you look at, okay, how long were you transitioning? How long were you on this movement? How long were you doing this? Like those long transitions and stuff add up way more than 2 or 3 breaks on a 30, 40 rep movement or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like that's a big part of my job being there in the afternoons is, and I think this is something a lot of athletes do, not just athletes like Kelly or Jacob in particular, but it's like the piece is written, in a certain way. And then they'll be talking about it and they'll say, well, I think I'm going to do this set of toes to bar. And I'll be like, why? Like, why are you only going to do 15? Like, why? Right. And get them to start that conversation. And then more often than not, we end up coming up with a strategy that they feel like is aggressive and they manage to work through that almost perfectly fine because they're fit enough to do it and they have the capacity to do it. It's just in our mind when we're so focused on like execution or tiptoeing that red line, like you were saying, they'll inadvertently hold themselves back.
Yeah, I think one thing, if people out there listening aren't super familiar with Jacob and don't know him athletically, he is a very naturally talented, very virtuous mover. The gymnastics and just moving well comes very naturally and fairly easily to Jacob. So I think he was a little bit of the flip-flop, like pushing his capacity up in skills and pushing his capacity up in weightlifting and everything actually came before some of the capacity to be able to support the sets that he would do and stuff. So led into a little bit of maybe fear or holding back in some of those transitions to make sure he stayed underneath that line and could kind of maintain those sets and those skills and really relied on his talent in those skills in those areas to execute these workouts. And so it's been a fun journey to watch. It's been a painful one, I know, for him. Flipping the script and not relying so much on his natural talents and kind of really pushing him outside of the comfort zone and pushing his capacity and making him make the decision to make the workouts hurt more than he wants to. I think really has been fun to watch, but I also think it's very rewarding for you, Jacob. I see you excited and fired up about training when you know that you chose to make that decision when you normally would have maybe shied away from how you attack that workout and things.
Yeah.
It's pretty cool. Can you feel changes like that happening?
Yeah. That has been a big thing the past, I mean, not even year that me and Triston have been working together. I guess I'll be a baby sometimes. When it comes to certain like, and that's part of like
It hurts.
I do feel like, especially with qualifiers, like when it comes to in person, like my adrenaline's going. Like I'm the type of person like I do well under pressure, and so like when it comes to competition, like, oh, you only have one shot, and I'm like, I don't want to be last. Like, that's when my competitiveness goes in. It's like I would rather die than let whoever this is next to me beat me. And there's just when there's somebody next to me, like it's just different. For me, I'm so much better in person. And I feel like the struggle has been getting past the online stage the past couple of years, but I think we're doing well with that. I'm excited to put that to the test. But no, I've always struggled with that with qualifiers, just because, and just like harder pieces because I'm like, oh, this is gonna hurt. Like, why am I? Why, it's like there's not somebody next to me that's like, I guess like, I don't know, challenging my skills. Like, it's just me doing this workout. Like,
you're not getting any feedback in the moment if you need to make that decision, right?
Yeah.
Like, you need to make it to win. You're willing to go there, but if you don't need to make it, like, you can't tell if anyone's around you racing whether you need to go harder or not.
Yeah. And so that has been like, I've just focused a lot on like, and me and Triston have talked about like, okay, no, like, and Ricky said something to me. I walked in the gym and I was like, oh, I'm about to do this workout. It's going to be so hard. Like, it's going to hurt. And he was like, well, yeah, like, you do CrossFit competitively. Like, that's the whole point. Like, and just since then, and talking with Tristan, it's like, okay, no, the goal is to like, push fitness, but it's like, if I make these hurt, I'm going to get what I need out of it. And so switching the mindset of like, oh, this is going to hurt, to be like, okay, no, that's what I'm looking for. Like, when I hurt, that's when the real work starts to begin. Has been big. And
after quarters last year, after you kind of got back into the gym and we'd had some conversations, there was a noticeable change in your demeanor when it came to like pieces that were uncomfortable. And while yes, sometimes there are days when you're like, I don't want to do this or this, that, and the other, which I think all athletes have. I have changed my response as you've kind of grown as an athlete, where it's not, when we first started working together, even kind of before you came on with Ascend, and it was just like me trying to help you, guide you or whatever, there was a lot more to it. But now, I don't know if you've noticed, but most times when you say something to me like, I don't want to do this, or it's going to hurt, or I'm tired, I just look at you and I say, do you want to go to semis? Because like for an athlete such as yourself, that's where we're at. There's no more beating around the bush. Do you want to go to semis?
And there's not secret sauce. There's not a whole lot to be gained left in movements. Like, you got little things that you're working on clearing up, but really the fight and the success comes down to making the decision in your head at the moment. Yeah. That's where you're at.
And I wanted to touch on that, what you were kind of bringing up, Emily, about Jacob being a very good mover and, being naturally dispositioned to skills and weightlifting and things like that. Because I feel like there might be other athletes out there who that comes naturally to them. And I think you could look at that with two different archetypes of athletes, so to speak. You have athletes who are naturally gifted at movement and strength and gymnastics and body awareness. Maybe it's because they come in at, in their teenage years like Jacob or whatnot. But those athletes, a lot of the times in the lower levels of competition, like in not lower levels, but, 500 to 200 of quarterfinals and things like that, they'll find success through their inherent natural ability to just do things better than other people. Mm-hmm. And it's not inherently painful for them. They're just better at the thing, right? And then you have another archetype of athlete who is not naturally athletic in a CrossFit sense. And the first thing they learn how to do is be really fucking uncomfortable. And then they have to work to get the skills and the weights and the things like that. So with Jacob and other athletes like himself, it's almost, okay, cool. We got all the like skills and drills and lifts and like you move well and like you're not busted up and like this, that, and the other. So then it's like going back to that square one for other athletes where it's like, we just have to get really, really fucking good at being really, really uncomfortable. Mm-hmm. So.
Yeah, that's been a goal this season because that's what I struggle with. Getting really, really uncomfortable. I've relied on my like high gymnastic skills and like strength, which has gotten me far. And then this year, I think the biggest jump this year was doing all the endurance work to get my engine better, and then just like really focusing on like pushing the pace, like getting comfortable being uncomfortable.
Mm-hmm. I think like resetting your bar of kind of what is normal and kind of what you should be feeling kind of in a workout. But let's you kind of just brought it up there, but let's touch on what are the goals for 2023? Where are we going?
Going all the way. That's the goal. You know, I don't want to limit myself to just being like, oh, we're just making semifinals. You know, like the goal is to go as far as I can. I think that quarterfinals, honestly, I'm looking forward to semifinals, but really, I'm really looking forward to it all. But quarterfinals, it'll feel really good to like break the barrier after 2 years of not. And then I know when I get to semis, like it'll be, you know, I'm around. You know, I don't know how it's going to be this year with like 60 and 60, but with
I think that should play to your favor, actually.
Yeah.
A bigger competitive field, more people in different heats and stuff to race, to push against. And just based off of your background and everything that you like to say is you like that energy and whatnot of the in-person competition. And I think that big competition is going to bring that sense of fight or flight out of you.
Yeah. I'm very much.
Hopefully fight, no flight, but
yeah. When that kicks in, I'm usually always a fighter. I don't know. I am. But I'm very excited for semifinals. I think that in that setting, I will shine more than in quarterfinals. I think I'll do well in quarterfinals, but I think that in semifinals, when it's in person and like usually when pressure's applied, I usually perform. And it's just the things that will show up, I think, are a lot better for me. Looking at, I have no idea what the program is going to look like since they've changed the format this year, but there's just a lot more stuff that they can do that I think I will do a lot better at. Dumbbell stuff, sandbag, ring muscle ups, handstand walking, just stuff like that I think I do well. We'll do a lot better than quarterfinals. So I'm really excited for this season. And just looking back to last season, I thought I was really fit. And then to now, I'm like, I feel like I've made a humongous jump. Because me and Triston only started working together a month before quarterfinals. So it was like the hay's in the barn. Like, we were kind of just, it was like 2 weeks of working together. Then like, okay, let's deload for quarters.
You've had a full off season of training, which you did take a decent amount of downtime, then went into a very intentional off season of working your weaknesses. Now just to really get to like an off season training cycle, which started in like October, end of September now. So we're really only 2 months into kind of preparation for the season. And I see it too. I also you've always been a confident little booger, but you're walking in the gym, just all excited, ready to see everybody. Just, you always bring a smile and some good energy and good attitude into the gym and training too. So I think that's a really big positive of having you around. Triston, anything on 2023 that you want to add?
No, I'm really looking forward to quarterfinals and semifinals for him. I do feel very confident in saying that the semifinals and regional style tests that we've seen in the past lend significantly more toward his strengths. So even though it would be, kind of his freshman year at that level, I think there's definitely the potential for him to make some waves, coupled with his significant difference in him doing an online qualifier workout in a gym versus seeing him compete in person. So that makes me really excited, and I'm excited to see the hard work pay off for him that he's been putting in. I know it's been a change in the last 2 years from leaving home and, doing school and doing those things. Like, I've reflected a little bit about, my early 20s and things like that. And I can definitely remember how big of a change in things that is. And I definitely wasn't even trying to be a competitive athlete in anything. So, no, I'm just really excited. I'm proud of him for the work he's put in. I can say it's probably only going to get harder until quarters comes. So there's also that, but I know he'll, put in the work, and he's in a good headspace right now.
Yeah, I think he can handle it. Speaking of, really quick, in-person competition, I just wanted to bring up that you are competing at your first pro division in-person competition, right? So we qualified online for TFX. So we're going to be in the individual pro division kind of coming up here in January to kind of assess some of that progress and stuff. What are you looking forward to about that opportunity?
Really just, let me think. I mean, I'm really excited to compete. I'm excited to see the jump. I feel like I've made a huge jump from I think the last competition I did was fittest last year. And I was just shy of the pro division.
I think so. I think so. Yeah.
Yeah, I was like one spot out.
And you won RX division there at TFX.
Yeah, and the goal of that last year was to be like show people that I belong in pro. Because I just I wasn't very fit at the time of the qualifiers, and then I got fit by the competition. And so now I'm very excited to be like, okay, like I'm in pro, like I can hang with all you guys and beat some of you guys. And I think it'll be really fun. I know a lot of the guys I'm competing against, and they're cool dudes, and it'll feel like a bro fest. I mean, just us throwing down a lot of dudes from the South, and I'm just excited to get those competitive juices flowing. It's been so long, and I feel like I've just made huge jumps since the last time I competed. So I'm excited to show those off.
It's going to be a good weekend too. I think we have like 30 plus athletes from Ascend competing that weekend. We got a few teams. I think really in total, like 4 teams competing, plus you and Kelly in the individual pro division. We got a lot of individuals and RX and scaled divisions too.
Yeah.
So it's going to be a good weekend. We're going to have some good vibes and have a lot of fun out there. And I think it'll be a really good kickoff to everything that we're aspiring to this next season and shooting for.
Yeah. We could play some spike ball in between events.
You can play some spike ball.
Recovery.
Like roll your ankle or something, playing some spike ball out in the yard.
Just you're not allowed to cut any vegetables.
Oh yeah. For anybody that didn't know, I almost cut my thumb off. I was using one of those things. What, a mandolin?
Yeah.
Yeah. I was cutting some squash, and I didn't use the cover, and so I was cutting it, and I was watching TV in my kitchen in my apartment, and I was thinking, I was like, let's hurry up and finish this so I can sit down and eat and watch dinner. And then I threw my thumb right into it and just sliced a big chunk out of it. And so that was 2 days before fitness. So I competed with a skin flap.
That was a fun FaceTime call at like 8:30.
Yeah, just pouring blood. Like, hey guys, guess what?
Surprise. Okay, last thing before we wrap this up is I know that you started CrossFit at a pretty young age. You were just a teenager, and it took a little while to kind of evolve into competitive aspirations, but there's a lot of kids out there starting the sport younger and younger. What advice would you give to a teenage athlete watching the documentary right now, wanting to aspire to be where you're at now when they're starting their CrossFit journey?
The biggest thing I would say, I feel like my journey into CrossFit was very healthy. Like, I mean, I obsessed over it at times because I just love to be consistent with it, but like have fun and find a good reason to do it. Don't just do it because I want to be famous and all good at CrossFit. My reason is like, it makes me feel good about myself. I like coming in, doing hard work, and I feel like it changed me to be a better person. It taught me how to work hard and just, what it looks like to really care about something. So I would just say that don't get too caught up in trying to chase goals, like chase crazy goals, like the long-term goals. Of course, everybody wants to go to the games, but, just focus on what you can do right now and set little goals and just, don't get ahead of yourself. Make sure it's fun, because if it's not fun, you're not gonna do it, and you're gonna burn out. And it should be fun. I mean, me and Triston talk about it all the time. Like when people get in a bunch about CrossFit, it's like we exercise fast for that's what we do. It's not dire consequences. Like it's not that serious. Have fun, and you can be serious about it. I stopped playing sports in high school. Honestly, looking back, I wish I would have kept playing baseball, just because of the social aspect. But just remember to have fun, because that's what it's all about. Like, and fun can look like suffering in workouts or just being consistent. Like, I find it fun to be consistent and see results, and just have fun with it. Don't throw away your teenage years or childhood years, your high school years, chasing something that will eventually come. You're only a kid once, and enjoy it.
You can play CrossFit forever.
Yeah. You can't do the stupid stuff that you do in high school and get into trouble and have no consequences.
Whoa.
Let's not get into trouble.
All right. Podcast over.
I'm just
Stop.
look at. No, I just mean
slide into as many DMs as you can.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Always do that. Get experience. It's all about experience. If you never ask, the answer is always no.
I mean, that's a true statement.
It is. And if you get turned down, then it's like, okay, well.
All right. Next podcast, dating advice from Jacob Marlow.
That's what we do.
Can we bring Kelly on that too? Just
please.
Just to commentate.
I would love that.
Oh my
God. I think my face will be red the whole time.
All right, guys, we got to wrap this up, but thanks for coming on and joining us today, Jacob. It was really fun to hear a little bit of your background and story, and I know both Triston and I are really excited about what's to come this year and really proud of the work that you're putting in right now in the off season, and are excited to see the fruits of that labor. But if you guys out there want to follow along with Jacob's journey, he's on our Instagram page all the time, but make sure that you check him out on Instagram. What's your handle again, Jacob? I got messed up.
Jacob Marlow 31.
Jacob Marlow 31. Look him up. We'll make sure that he's linked in all of our postings of the show as well. And here's to 2023. Thanks, Jacob. Thanks for joining us.
We'll
talk later, guys. Bye-bye.